Tori O'Neal, you brave soul, you came back.
I did. I wouldn't miss it.
I would have missed. You're like, I had nothing else to do today, so I wandered in, whatever. Thank you for coming back. Obviously, you are part of the Soil Conservation District up in your area. You are way into soil and getting food that's grown and raised and produced in the most effective and efficient and obviously healthy way. That's one of the biggest things. And you're here today because there is the soil conservation legislative event tomorrow. And I convinced you to come back in and keep talking about soil conservation districts.
Yes, you did. So yeah, you're correct. I serve on my local soil conservation district board. There's 50 districts in Idaho. Most of them kind of overlap with the county you're in, but in each district they elect 5 to 7 supervisors. So we're elected officials. So look for that on your little local ballots. I know not everybody gets excited about their local elections, but you do have a say in who serves on that. And then I'm also the president of the Idaho Association of Soil Conservation Districts. So we have an organization that helps represent all 50 of those districts, and that's we'll be the ones that are sponsoring that event tomorrow to kind of show what legislative districts do, or what soil conservation districts do to our legislative representatives, and show off some of our projects and talk about what we do.
Hit me with this, because the concept at its core is that Idaho is an agricultural state. Right. And that means that we could be growing things like plant matter. It means that we could be allowing plant matter to grow and then having it be eaten by livestock, be it cattle, be it sheep, be it whatever. But we need, at the core of it, is our earth, our ground, actually being fertile enough and capable enough of growing, nutrient dense plant matter, right? Because if you don't have that, you don't have cows. And if you don't have that, you don't have sugar beets. Yeah.
And while I think we think of soil health and this new regenerative ag and all of that is a very new thing, but it's actually a very Idaho and historical thing, the fact that soil conservations even exist. So we've been enshrined in state law for, I believe, 80 years plus now. And the reason that we're part of state code and they have soil conservation districts is a very Idahoan thing. We know that this is an agricultural state, a natural resource state, and it is the state's responsibility to take care of those things. But we're Idahoans. We don't like to be told what to do. And so the way that I think was really eloquent that they came up with for that is that we're going to divide into 50 different districts and let them have an elected board that makes decisions on completely voluntary local-based decisions on how to best conserve our soil and our water in those areas.
Okay. If done properly, soil conservation and soil health becomes a force multiplier. You're going to grow more sugar beets. You're going to get more feed for your livestock. You're going to make more money. Right. And ultimately, it's good for a lot of reasons. But if you're looking at it as a commercial pursuit, the better the soil health, the better your bottom line is ultimately. That's accurate, right?
Yes, that is correct. And I think that's why you see a lot of people have started to go and get a lot more interested in soil health and adopt some of these new practices. Is your soil is really a living thing. And so the more you put into it, the more you can get that microbiome in the soil alive. Not only is it better for your plants because you're going to have to put less inputs in, as in your fertilizers and other things, but it's also great for our other resource that we're really concerned about in the state, which is water. So have you ever seen water, after a big rainstorm on one of these fallow fields that's just been tilled? One of the strange things about it is you think, well, it's all just going to soak it up into that dirt. Well, it doesn't. A lot of that water will run off. It runs back into our streams with a lot of that dirt carrying along behind. Versus if you have a living root and something in that, it has better water infiltration, which it means it can kind of suck in like a big sponge and hold on to that water, which is part of the reason you see a lot of the guys who are in this in the sugar beet industry starting to be a little more interested in no-till. By its nature, you've got to till a little bit because you've got to dig up those sugar beets.
Right.
But in between, what else do sugar beet lands coincide with? A lot of our big drought areas, a lot of these places that are kind of at the center point of these issues around water. And when you have to cut water, if you've got ground that can hold on to the water you've already put on longer, that really, really helps when it's kind of a finite resource in the state.
Help me understand this then, because I actually went to a sugar beet harvest this last spring and I did an episode, fall, whenever they harvested them. It was like August or September or something. I went with Sugar Beet Sam and we sat in an irrigation ditch and I ate a raw sugar beet. It was fantastic. And we just talked about sugar beets as, tractors going behind us. There's no way to not, it's a gigantic football that you got to dig out of the ground, thousands and thousands of them, throwing them onto a truck. So what would be the closest no-till mechanism to help you have increased water retention in that soil after you've removed the crop? Like, what would you do?
So for them, it's a rest rotation type system.
Sure.
Well, maybe not a rest system per se. So you might do sugar beets 1 year, and then you can go into corn and or wheat for 2 years. And both of those work really well in no-till systems. So you can say once that sugar beets are pulled out of there, then you go ahead and you say plant your corn or whatever that happens to be. You might just plant a cover crop that'll grow up after, in this area from August until I could have sworn today was spring. So it's a long growing season. Yeah. You can put a cover crop on there that you might be able to have someone come in and graze. And then in the spring, plant some wheat, plant some corn. And you can do that with a reduced tillage method. You don't have to do a lot of ground disturbance. And then after you harvest your wheat or your corn, you could go in and reseed that same thing or another crop. And then say when you come back to that 4th year, they go back in with sugar beets. And so for our more dig intensive crops, which we're Idaho, so potatoes
Sure.
are in there too, that's one of the ways that they can mitigate that, because you can't really avoid digging up a root vegetables. So that's part of that.
So it's really just crop rotation. And that way you could have, because the crop rotation will engage in things that have prolonged root systems, they'll have more water retention. So you can rotate to more, water intensive. You could do water intensive 1 year and then less water intensive the following years, then cycle through. So your average water consumption is down.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And this is one thing I really do brag on soil conservation districts about, is there's a lot of programs out there to incentivize crop rotation, incentivize, reduced tillage and all of this. But what I find missing at the federal level a lot of the times is they came up with one method they think's great and they put it on a paper and you have to follow, exactly like they said. And it may have been developed with, parameters from Kansas or somewhere else, maybe adopted to our local area, but, we're very different from north till south. What's cool about conservation districts is if you're coming up with a plan and seeking funding on those types of projects, you can have an advocate at a local level who says, hey, we have this kind of extenuating circumstance. So we don't have a long enough growing season to plant this 27 variety cover crop, or we don't have the ability to plant X, Y, and Z plants, so we should do this instead. Or these are the kind of crops we grow and we need to make it work. Because really, the funny thing is you can talk about all these practices, but at the end of the day, how you execute them depends. It depends on your weather. It depends on the climate of where you're at. It obviously depends on market conditions.
Right.
You're not going to look at these guys in southern Idaho and tell them to plant something that they're going to lose money on.
They're like, go harder on potatoes.
Yeah.
I was talking to a potato guy the other day, and he was saying that, not only did you just lose your shirt on potatoes, but then when you try to give them to the cattle operations to eat, you get in an argument about who's going to pay for the diesel to deliver them. It's like, dude, we can't, I'm giving you these for free. They're like, I'll only take them if you get them here. It's like, you can't even come pick them up. They're like, I ain't paying for that diesel. Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So one of those
little heartbreaking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So bottom line is there are mechanisms, methodologies that help with water retention. That helps with soil health. And when you talk about soil health and that the soil is an organism, that's like, I had this soil that at my spot where I don't have a hobby farm. Like, it's a little hobby. It's like an acre and a half. It's nothing. It's not like I'm a regenerative farm or something. Although I will tell you, and I'm very proud of this, and I am hoping you will pat me on the back for it, metaphorically speaking, I was able to outperform and outcompete the goat heads without chemicals.
Now that is impressive.
It was hell. Like, that was my Vietnam. It was literally like, people come over, they're like, dude, you're going to have to turn this whole thing over and burn it. Because I turned over all the earth. It was like 8,000 square feet of lawn. It was all dead earth, like hard as rock. So I turned it all over. I think I told you this last time, but turned it over, put a bunch of compost in it, turned that over, like all these things, planted all of it, right? And the grass starts growing. I'm like, it's working. Like, this is great. And along with that comes the biggest patch of goat heads you have ever seen in your entire life, and they don't care about anything. And what ultimately I'm like, what am I going to do? Right? Like, I don't want to just bombard it with chemicals, but like, we will never have a functional lawn in the presence of these goat heads. And dude, I kept pulling them out. So I'd have like bag after bag, because you can take them out at the root and you don't have to pull the entire root out. You just snip the top root, right? So I was like taking a bunch of them out. And then when I would clear a space, I would put more like mulch or soil down and reseed it. And I'd put extra water on it. And dude, after a while, they're like, we can't handle the rainforest. Because I also let the grass grow to like 6 inches. So like the goat head that's snaking along the ground like hasn't seen the sun in weeks.
It has no competition.
Yeah, I was very proud of myself.
Yeah, or it has too much competition.
Yeah, too much competition.
And that's one of the cool things you've seen with farmers who start to do some interseeding with their other crops is they'll start their cover crop in between rows of corn or even their wheat coming up. So that comes up, then that cover crop will come up and grow under the canopy of their corn, and it keeps down the weed pressure.
Yeah.
And also helps. So good
That's
job.
like the three sisters, right?
Yeah.
Bean, squash, and corn.
Yeah, kind of taking care of one another.
Yeah.
But no, and that's exactly a great example of, sometimes there's some other levers you can pull and things you can look at.
Right. But again, coming back to the soil, one of the big things with my soil was like there was no water on it. It was just dead. Like there was nothing going on. And throughout the entire summer, I added carbon and I added water, and then I kept seeding.
And water is so critical. And that's kind of one of the cool programs that soil conservation districts have had, I think, the last 3 years in the state is the water quality projects. I'm terrible with acronyms. We call it WACPA, WQPA.
WACPA.
I have to remember it. It's much catchier as WACPA. But it basically...
It's clog of muscles and WACPA. I can't.
I know, all that fun. But it's basically a pool of money to help with kind of aging water infrastructure and other things. And I was a recipient of one of those projects. I worked through my local district, and, I'm taking over a ranch that my dad ran, and there's just some dilapidated old irrigation, and there were patches of land where I had the same issue. The only thing I can grow was weeds because I don't have enough water. And by being able to access, for me, and probably if I'm talking to a potato farmer, it's pretty small change to put in some irrigation on these side pastures for me. But that means so much more productive land and the ability to use what I already have in a water right and distribute that. And that program's been really meaningful to, newer producers, younger producers like myself who are taking over the aging operation. And man, if I could just get a little more water here or have a little more efficient sprinkler system so I can use more of my water right, you see a huge improvement, and the ability to really revitalize these rural economies, because a lot of our income, and throughout Idaho, it isn't even just a rural thing, but exceptionally in rural areas, we're dependent on ranching and farming. And if the difference between making money and not making money is the ability to get that water delivery, it's a huge deal. So that program has been really excellent. And I think a big reason is it's been distributed through soil and water conservation districts who can find the person that maybe,
Right, the right recipient
who really needs it, and really meet them where they're at and not have to go through a bunch of hoops and boxes to check that you would with, a federal program or something like that. And then it's also a cost share with the landowner. So it's really efficient for state funds, because it's 30% of that is paid by the landowner, and this 60% is paid through some state funds. And so you get a lot of return on that. And then you get, I think the downstream effect is even bigger, which is keeping a lot of these operations going.
Right. And is this a program that you're talking about using more of your water right? What does that mean? Is that essentially like with the irrigation system that I had, I couldn't actually utilize all of the water that had been allocated to me because I either couldn't cover a large enough area, so I was just super saturating soil that didn't need any more water? Or is it that like the new irrigation systems are more efficient and so the water actually gets stretched more?
Yeah, so it's typically better, more efficient water systems. So the ability to actually get that water where you need it and distribute it over a better area, be that with pivots going from like a hand line, wheel line to pivot. In my case, I was replacing old wheel line, which just took so much water to pressurize the line because I'm off of a gravity fed system. And so I eased those down to a K-line system on what's a lot of my sheep pasture and I can run with just kind of a trickle of my water right and get the rest of that ground irrigated, all within my existing water right. And a lot of the times too, you see that go hand in hand with conservation. Somebody might be able to apply for one of those projects and use less than their water right and put that back into conservation programs.
Do they get paid for putting the water back?
Yeah, there's usually an incentive there. And that's why we really like doing things through the soil conservation districts is because those boards are coming from usually a lot of times folks who are invested. In southern Idaho, you see a lot of farmers and ranchers on those boards. In northern Idaho, you see a lot of timber guys and folks. And we also have kind of a diversity of folks who are interested in soil health. And there's a reason that they decide to serve on those boards. But what they're really interested in is they don't want to go into, the grocery store and see their neighbor and they're like, that project you signed me up for, I regret it till my dying day. They want it to be something that those people are proud of and they felt like really helped them out. And it was a good trade-off for the outcome. And that's something in Idaho that we're always pushing up against in agriculture is that we are a natural resource state. We are a wildlife state, and balancing those two can be really difficult. But I think that the eloquent solution with soil conservation districts is you go straight to the landowner. And most landowners living in rural Idaho want to tell you, I do enjoy being able to go fish and being able to go hunt, but I need to make, economic sense on my farm or ranch. So if you can offer me solutions that maybe help me more efficiently use my water and also help the fish a little bit, great. And so finding a way that really works for landowners and that they're on board with, they are voluntarily engaging in, and they're an active part of shaping how that project looks, to me is the way that conservation should be done.
God bless it, man. As far as water conservation, obviously more efficient mechanisms, helping people upgrade their systems, you're getting better land usage. What do you do specifically for soil? Like, do you have inputs where you're like, or is it all methodology where it's like, hey, let me help you different rotation, no till, low till, or is it like, hey man, sprinkle this magic dust over the field?
If only there was the magic dust. There's
got to be some magic dust.
There's a lot of companies looking for the magic dust, and it's the worst part. And I think why I'll use my brother as an example, that he loves the open ranch, but he is so frustrated by farming and ranching is because the answer is always it depends. There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer sometimes, because it depends what you need in your soil. And that's where soil conservation districts like to help out with soil testing where they can, because that tells you where to start. One guy may be having extreme trouble because he's got very high pH soil. Somebody else is low pH. Somebody, it could be I'm missing nitrogen or I'm missing potassium. And then you can talk about ways that you can supplement that depending on, if you're an organic guy or, you're a little hesitant on chemicals, or if you just want a quick fix, what's out there. And the nice part about soil conservation districts is they're not these proud defensive units. They're pretty humble. So I often think of soil conservation districts as kind of the hub that brings everybody together. So, for example, like if you were to come in with your goat head problem to your local district.
Could I go just as a residential idiot?
You can't actually. I
can't. Come on. Can't you introduce me to my person and I'll be like,
I'll give
come
you
on.
a shout out. I was going to say, if you're in Ada, Ada has a fantastic soil conservation district. I mean, the whole state, we've got amazing ones, but since we're in Ada and you're in Ada, I'll brag on Ada. And they do a lot of outreach with smaller acreage owners because those are becoming a lot more of the folks that are owning land. And we still need to manage weeds. We still want to be productive. We want to see people engaged in how they use their water responsibility in their soil. Just because you're not a major farmer doesn't mean that you're not having an input on Idaho's lands.
Wait, so I can talk to them?
Yeah, so you
I
can
thought you said I can't.
No, you can.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
Who's the one in Ada? Who's the person in Ada?
So that'd be Jess Harold is the district employee, and then she's supported by a board that, kind of picks the projects they're working on and what they emphasize. I believe they already did, or they have upcoming a workshop for small landowners.
Come on now.
So,
this was made for me. This is fantastic.
Well, and it's funny that you mention it because my brother and sister-in-law live down here, and she had mentioned to me, she's working out at the gym with a personal trainer, and her personal trainer's out, on one of these places that has a couple acres and trying to figure out what the heck to do with the weeds. And I was like, well, you can reach out to the local soil conservation district. And everybody's like, what now?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm on a domestic well system, so I don't have water rights, right? So I only get half an acre. So the big question that we're running into is we have just over an acre and a half. We can only have half acre irrigated. So that leaves a solid acre left of like sad, like hard. And what I've been trying to figure out, I have Paul Arrington on frequently. I really like him. We're friends, and water user guy. I'm like, Paul, look, here's my question for you. Okay, say I have a watermelon. Okay, a watermelon plant. The watermelon plant, we know, stems from one little stem, right? But it grows gigantic. It'll grow like 40, 50 square feet, right? Does it? What am I irrigating? Do you count the 50 square feet as all being irrigated, or do you just count the 1 square foot where I have a little dropper, right? Because my dream is if it doesn't count as 50 square feet, I'm going to plant like pumpkins and watermelons and cantaloupe and honeydew across my whole property and just have a drip system just dripping out little bits of water to each of these different systems. And then it will stop all the weeds because they will grow like gangbusters. And I will just dig out little like 2 square foot areas or 2 cubic foot areas, put in like really good soil, put the little thing, put a dropper, and I'll like cover a whole acre in watermelon.
Yeah.
It'd be great. That probably would count as an acre now that I say it that way.
If that's the way that it pans out, I would say like that's the fantastic source of soil conservation districts is, like I said, they're kind of the hub.
Yeah.
And so they work with other folks. So like in my area, they work with the Salmon Valley Stewardship and the Mule Deer Foundation and everyone else. And they kind of serve as a hub for that. And so I had a similar issue. I have some areas that I just can't get water to. We haven't watered them in a long time, so they don't even count as something that would be, under our water right that I could justify expanding to. But I would like them to be something more than cactus and rocks. And so I went to a local soil conservation sponsored event with one of the local nonprofits, and the University of Idaho was there, and the National Resource Conservation Services were there. So kind of everybody I needed to talk to in one room. I ended up leaving with 50 pounds of a dry mix to sample and try of native plants and a few non-natives that are deep root that should be able to grow based on my little bit of Pacimmeroy, 5 to 7 inches of annual precipitation, mostly snowfall, and a lot of ideas on how I could plant that efficiently, whether it was no-till or frost seeding, a lot of support for what I could do, and, some questions, and I was able to have that back and forth of like, hey, I'm really excited about upland bird and pollinator habitat, but I have sheep and I have cattle, and there's a few things like lupine and that I don't really want to see in there because I don't want to kill my sheep for the bees. There's other things.
Oh, lupine is good for bees but bad for sheep?
Yeah, it can be pretty deadly for sheep and causes birth defects in cattle. So
yikes.
It can be a little rough. And so it was good to have that back and forth, and I think that's what soil conservation districts are good at, because as a rancher, I'd love to see upland bird and pollinator habitat, but I'd also like to be able to have something graze it without worrying that it's going to drop dead or cause issues with fertility. And so we could have that back and forth. And then next year, they're already coming back with a list of grazer-friendly pollinator seeds and all of that. So they really are an excellent source for even the small landowner to go to. So I think that's a big message, is just because you're not farming 1,000 acres doesn't mean that a soil conservation district can't help you. They're a great resource for someone who says, I don't know where to start. I'm overwhelmed with weeds. My soil just looks like powdery dirt and I can't make anything work. I don't know how to irrigate this. Where do I start? And they're just an excellent resource to help you find, some of the help that's already out there, maybe a little bit of funding to help you with some projects, but definitely a great education and resource for these small landowners that make up so much of the Treasure Valley.
Can they help me with my huckleberry plants? I'm trying real hard with like 4 huckleberry plants.
And I'm speaking beyond how much I know about this program, but I have seen Ada especially has been leaning into more of the small like backyard producers. So folks who are trying to grow their own food, maybe you want to do a little bit of you want to have a little stand at the farmer's market. Maybe you just want to do it for your family, but really working on kind of food chain resiliency and some of that. So another great resource for that.
Yeah. We have a big, so we have this big lawn, but we also carved out this big space and put weed blocker down, and we're going to build garden beds. It's going to be the cliche, like steel siding with like the wood corners, but we have this gigantic space. It's like 20 by 80 or something. Like it's going to be a huge garden. And man, I love, like, my second boy in particular is such a fruit and vegetable hound. He's like, he will eat until he's sick. So yeah, we are going to grow like cucumbers and melons and everything. The wife wants to do like a trail. You ever see those tunnels, like the squash tunnels, where it's like the squashes are hanging down, so it's like all shaded? Oh yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's going to be a wild time.
Yeah, no, and that would be perfect, because in this area especially, but we're also seeing more interest in it. Even on our cold, windy side of the state that I'm from, but just a lot more interest in community gardens, your own self-sufficient gardens, and a lot of project input. That's something I'd love to brag on out in Idaho Falls. We had a district that has put in a community greenhouse, and because Idaho Falls gets cold and snowy in the winter, they've also put in like an earthen heater, so one of those stone mass heaters that will retain heat over the winter. So there's some cool projects that go on to kind of support growing food, support that. So
wait, what does the stone mass heater do?
So a stone mass heater basically is a wood stove. Think of it like a wood stove that is surrounded by kind of this stone brick mass, and it has a tube that goes through it. And so you not only get the heat of the wood heater, it heats that stone mass and then retains the heat. And so you could start keep your fire going during the hours you're awake, but it'll retain that heat for, 12 to 24 hours, keeping that warm, which I thought was a pretty elegant solution to a cold area problem, and somewhere where we're getting so little sunlight in the winter time that solar or something else isn't going to work great.
Yeah, you just need a lot of thermal mass.
Yeah.
Right, and then distribute the heat evenly across that, or as much as you can. I just installed a bunch of pellet stoves in my barn. I'm quite happy with my pellet stoves, but they're not going to help with like heating bricks. Like, that's actually the problem. So I have a cement floor in the barn where I put the pellet stoves, and the cement floor is just this gigantic heat sink that's just sucking out all my life.
You should have just poured a little more cement and made yourself a thermal mass heater.
I should. You know what I really want to do is just build a floor over it. It's like, it's a cement slab. Like, we could put like 2x3s or 2x4s, put those down on edge, do board and bat insulation, or just blow an insulation into the floor, and then put a floor on top of it, and we'd be pumping with fire, man.
It'd be perfect.
It'd be perfect. We're coming up with a lot of solutions today. I'm quite excited about it. So bottom line for me and anybody else in Ada County, we can go to the Soil Conservation District and talk to them. It's like, this is what I have in my yard. This is the problem I have, or this is what I'd like to know. They can help with testing. They can help with recommendations. They can help try this.
Yeah, and I really highly recommend it. I will brag on our district employees. Obviously, we say the heart and soul of the districts are the fact that we have, locally elected supervisors, but we have some really amazing district administrative employees who really are kind of the heart and soul that take that direction from the board, and then they're kind of the conduit to the community. And they do an amazing job of sitting down and being like, okay, tell me what your problems are, tell me what your goals are, and we'll figure out if we can help you, and if we can't, who can. And like I said, they're a really good resource for that education, for pointing you in the right direction for what you're interested in, and really finding all those resources out there. So they're just an excellent starting point and a great project manager to bring all of those together if you do end up having a larger project.
Dude, this is what I'm going to do. This is my plan. Okay, I'm going to take some before pictures. I'm going to get the poor lady doesn't even know I'm coming her way now. I'm going to get her and be like, okay, this is what I have. Could we work together over this spring and I will do whatever you tell me to do. And then like we'll grow things native and or otherwise, trees, whatever you want, set up irrigation, and then we'll do like after photos and have it. And then we'll sit down and have a conversation about what the steps we took were, like what if we test the soil, like what you found, how we addressed it. And then it would be like, it'd be awesome. And then people could see that and be like, oh, okay, our soil conservation district.
Yeah.
This is a genius idea.
No, that sounds great. I was going to say she'll be at the legislative social. So
the one tomorrow.
Yes.
That I invited myself to.
Yes.
Are you guys not doing lanyards?
I don't know that we have lanyards.
Oh,
for this
I only
one.
come if they're lanyards.
We'll make you a
know,
special lanyard.
Could you imagine? You do like a hand scribble lanyard, like Matt from the ranch, like because all the legislators show up with name tags and buttons and
you
stuff.
You just made me remember. I thought I packed so well. I forgot I have a fancy little magnetic IASCD name tag, and I'm pretty sure it's in the Pacimmeroy right now.
Well. Then
I'll
you done screwed up.
You'll need a lanyard.
Listen, the number of lanyards I have from going to these things on my studio in the other studio, on the cameras, I have like, they're falling over. Like the tripods are falling over with all the lanyards. And it's like this, it's like, I love getting another lanyard. Like, I don't know what it is. Every time I get one, I'm like, this is so cool. They all have like different, things. I actually came up with a really cool idea from one. I got invited to an election conference that Secretary of State put on, where he essentially got a lot of the county clerks and election officials and everything all into the same room and like, okay, this is the updates to our system. This is what we're using. This is where trends are. And I got invited to that. I'm like, because I love Idaho elections and learning about them. And they had the site for elections in Idaho is Vote Idaho. Okay, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I looked down on the lanyard, and of course it's Vote Idaho on the thing. That's the whole thing. And I was like, dude, we need like a Vote Idaho Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
So that weekend, I went home and started the Vote Idaho Instagram, and I preloaded it with all of the clips from the Secretary of State, from the county clerks. And now I'm just feeding like 3 times a week. I just put out like another little nugget about Idaho elections. Like did you know that every vote in Idaho is cast on a paper ballot? We don't have electronic ballots ever. And we also don't have voting machines. We only have paper ballots that get counted and then can be audited physically.
Yeah, I remember my grandma and the other ladies in the community that ran our little voting station at the May Grange Hall when I was younger. And then when they all passed or got too old, it all went to a mail-in ballot. So I believe it. Yeah,
it's a wild time, man. Yeah. It's, complex things. Anyway, so tomorrow they will be there.
Yes.
Yeah. I got to make it there. It'd be great. Listen, we've talked about a lot of things here. I know you're down here specifically to schmooze with people, not me, but I grabbed you for a brief period of time. Is there anything you want to hit here at the end?
No, I think the biggest thing is exactly what we talked about, is a lot of people don't know soil conservation districts exist, and we are enshrined in state code, and I think we are the most Idaho and efficient way for a return on the state dollar for conservation, and we're here for everybody to use. We're kind of nice to talk to, I think, and we're willing to help, and we're 100% voluntary, and we're really here to help landowners figure out their issues.
I love that. I really do. And again, a resource I didn't know existed until I met you, but dang, man, like there are a lot of people, especially in my area, that are struggling with just like barren earth and they don't know what to do. Then a lot of goat heads come in and it's just a train wreck. So knowing that that's a resource, I mean, at least one that I'm going to utilize for sure.
Yeah, and I want to 100% encourage folks, just because you don't view yourself as a farmer or rancher, if you move to Idaho and you bought you few acres, you make up a lot of acreage, especially in the Treasure Valley and some of these metropolitan areas. So we want to help you out. We want to help you answer some of your questions about how you now manage that land you have, and that's what we're here for.
God bless it. It's the best. Okay, I'm going to try to make tomorrow this luncheon. The luncheon that I wasn't invited to, but I invited myself to, that's the one I'm coming to. Thank you for coming on, and we'll do it again.
All right. Thanks, Matt.